I'm here today to persuade my audience that drug addicts should be sent to facilities and not sent to prison. My name is David Scott. Did you know that when you combine state and local spending, everything from drug arrest to prison, the total cost is $51 billion a year? That means that American taxpayers have to dish out $1 trillion every decade to manage drug problems. Now, there are some people in society that believe that drug addicts belong in prison, but others believe that rehab is the better choice for both the paying government and the person who has the problem. The relevance of this speech is to show that how incarcerated addicts cause higher taxes in our society, and to promote a more effective way of dealing with drug addicts, and to stop people from becoming drug addicts through education. Why am I qualified to speak about this subject? For 18 years, I worked for the Department of Corrections. I've seen people sentenced to prison, and I've seen them sentenced to drug programs. The ones who completed the drug programs actually came out, stopped the recidivism rate, and became productive citizens. Some of the things that I would talk about in this speech is how locking up drug users burdened the pockets of taxpayers, treating drug addicts as an illness, and the best approach to addiction is through education. I understand why some of you in society would take the opposite position and make comments like, just lock them up, get them off the streets, or a more nonchalant attitude as to say, it's not my problem. But according to the National Institute of Health, drug abuse is a major public problem that impacts society in multiple ways. According to the Huffington Post, in the United States, if illegal drugs were taxed at the rate of alcohol and tobacco, it would yield a revenue of $46.7 billion a year. And that's a lot of money that you can use to educate a drug addict instead of just putting him in jail, letting him do his time, and him coming out being a more clever drug addict and go back to prisons. And the cycle just keep going on and on and on. Another study, according to the National Research of Drug Abuse, says that legalizing drugs will save the United States $41 billion a year. Now, we tried this before, legalizing illegal stuff, which was alcohol and liquor. At one point in time, the crime rate was up, and it worked. So it's a proven fact that legalizing this things that will hurt our citizens and using the money to go towards using the taxes to go towards helping them instead of locking them up, it's proven that it will work. The simple and most effective way for the humans in society to stop using drugs is to educate them. The Obama administration in 2013, according to the New York Times, requested $25.6 billion in federal spending for the drug war. Of that, $15 billion was for law enforcement, interaction, and international effect. Nevertheless, the New York Times claims Americans are in prison and jail for drug-related crimes. So getting all that money didn't change anything. It didn't change the drug addiction. It didn't change the incarceration rate, nor did it change us spending more and more every year for taxes. So it seems to me that the strategy that we're using by locking people up for drugs is just simply not working, and maybe we need to look at another form of treatment instead of incarceration. Now that we know that we have the money and where we can get the money from, I think prevention is the proper way or the proper avenue to take. A recent evaluation done by the Columbia University found that a significant amount of reduction in recidivism in drug addicts was by treating the drug addicts instead of locking them up. It also increased them going back into society and getting jobs because they wasn't getting felonies for their drug addiction. And also they was more employable because they didn't have these criminal records. So that's one incentive for us to actually help a drug addicted person. The University of Columbia also found that the average cost for placing a participant in the drug treatment program for 25 months was $32,000. The average cost for locking a person up is $70,000 for 12 months. So again, you're saving money and helping out a citizen. And of course, these programs didn't just not stop at just talking to a counselor. They had support outside of the home, and also having a counselor to go walk them through when they had crisis, somebody to call from the beginning to the end of the program. Better Health reported that drug addiction is an illness, just like diabetes and heart disease. And the approach that we took with diabetes and heart disease is education. Years ago, a lot more people were dying from diabetes and heart disease because they didn't know how to handle it. I'm a diabetic myself, and when I get cravings for sugar, sometimes it's unbearable and I usually break down, even though I tried my best not to do it. So you can imagine how drug users feel once the addiction or craving for drugs answer them too. So once again, it's an illness where I think if we educate them more, we will get better results than just locking them up. In reviewing the whole thing, I know that after everything that you heard today, some people in the audience will still believe that drug addictions belong in prison. But just if one of you would change your mind and lean to the side of treatment, I think that I've done my job, and you will help society out a little bit better by just helping your fellow person out. And lumping all of the drug addiction problems together, it costs the nation about $484 billion per year. This includes healthcare expenses, lost earnings, and associated crimes and accidents. This is an enormous burden affecting all society, those who abuse the substance, and those who don't. At the end of the day, drug addiction far outreaches just one person. This is a problem that's affecting children, mothers, and friends. We can no longer stand by and ignore the overwhelming evidence that the war on drugs had failed. So let's band together and demand treatment instead of prison.